the coaching carousel that happens so quickly inside the NCAA and maybe some of the repercussions of that. How does it affect players? How does it affect – we talk about how coaching changes and players moving affect organizations, but how about how coaching changes can actually affect what happens at the actual school and facility and the organization of an Oklahoma, let's say. Notre Dame's another one. I mean, these are institutions that lose a coach immediately. Do you just want to do this? You just want to talk NCAA?
Yeah, we can do
Since
that.
we're already betting on everything and hoping for the best.
Yeah,
but my gamble on Cal is beating USC because Lincoln Riley is coming in from Oklahoma. But he bailed early. I don't understand. How come there can't be a timeline that says finish the season like the NFL, NBA, finish the season, then make that coaching change? Why can't it be like that? Why does it have to be like this?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew. I think since COVID started, obviously they opened up that transfer portal so the players can leave at any time, and the coaches have always had that. We know it's a big business. You already mentioned the tickets that we have betting, and it's funny, our new friend Jordan out here mentioned don't bet with your heart. And I'm like, you went to Cal, let's bet on Cal. Like,
dude, I fell right into that trap, and I'm going to wear it today. Yeah, I'm down for it.
They might win. You never know. So I think, like you said, you're either on the side of, let's go back to the bet, you're either on the side of Lincoln Riley's coming in, and these guys are going to show out to show them that they want a spot on the roster.
Because I've been in a college clubhouse or locker room.
Yeah. Or you feel like those guys are going to be like, you know what, Lincoln Riley's coming in. He got 3 5-star recruits coming in from Oklahoma.
Yeah, my job's gone.
I'm going to transfer already. My job's gone.
Yeah.
So they're gonna pack it in and show up. So I'm in that camp, and I bet them with you. But I think it's unusual, and I think that the pushback or the feedback that we got in regards to Lincoln Riley versus Brian Kelly is interesting, because Lincoln Riley, it was like, hey,
praised him.
That's right. It was last minute, but hey, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Would you like to stay in the SEC where Oklahoma's going to be next year, or would you like to come out to USC, which is very similar to like a Notre Dame, where I know they're in the Pac-12, but they're an independent. If you're good on the West Coast, you're going to be in that championship. You're going to be in that, the top 4 at the end of the year if you can win the Pac-12. So I think they were looking at it to be like, hey, this is a great opportunity for him. But he did gather his team together, was able to talk to the guys about why he's making the decision, what's right for his family. And I don't know if this was media spin, but Brian Kelly had to send a tweet to his team saying, hey, look, guys,
sorry. Is that even possible? How do you even think about that? I would imagine Brian Kelly at the University of Notre Dame, and he was one of the longest tenured coaches at a university, and he decides to go to Twitter?
Hey, I think when you get Gruden money, it's like they can make you do anything. All right,
that'll change your mind in a hurry.
10 years, $100 million. But I think that goes to the bigger point, which was your original question about how could he just leave, and how can this just keep happening time and time again? Yeah. You'd think like with any other sport that we've talked about, the NFL and MLB, you can't talk until the playoffs are over, last game of the World Series is over.
I can't enter a transfer portal until the end of the season.
Right, as a player. Yeah, that too. Yeah. So I mean,
why isn't there a coach's portal?
Yeah, so let's not have double standards, right? That's what we want, some kind of equanimity across the board.
Well, there's more of an impact on a coach moving than a player moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the problem I have, is because the impact that we talked about, Notre Dame is losing an established coach, the fan base, the booster clubs, everything that's involved. A player who is playing, football right now is going, man, I want to go to Notre Dame because Brian Kelly's been there forever. Now those dreams are washed away. And then you have the guy who is committed, and we're seeing this right now with Oklahoma commits, no longer Oklahoma commits. So everybody at the University of Oklahoma who has been there for a couple of years, just riding the wave of Lincoln Riley, are now going, wait, what? Who knows what's in store for them next year? Not to mention that would be a great job to probably pick up if you were able to move in and use some of those players. But now everybody's moving to USC. And now you have a coach like Brian Kelly who just evaporated overnight, and you left all of those players wondering what the hell they're going to do.
Well, I think that's exactly why they hired Freeman, to be honest with you, because Oklahoma is still in this situation, like, who are they going to bring in? And now these big names are leaving. And, we saw Luke Fickell, at least before we came in here, with Cincinnati. Yeah. He was rumored to be the Notre Dame guy. But there was a really nice video piece where Freeman walked in after he got the job, and the Notre Dame guys went nuts. And I think there's that's continuity. Huge, yeah. So Notre Dame's looking at it like, hey, this guy was our best recruiter.
Yeah, you can bail on us, but at least we got this guy.
Yeah,
we'll rally behind him.
Right, or most of the staff. Like, hey, we like the defensive coordinator. Maybe he was one of the main recruiters. You got to figure that Brian Kelly wasn't on the recruiting trail. These guys have a lot of good recruiters, and so I think maybe Notre Dame chose continuity over experience, whereas Oklahoma's still kind of, I don't know, up in the air, for lack of a better word, and you don't know who's going to be available. Mm-hmm. And that, like you said, that may cause a lot more guys to leave. And I think you hit the nail on the head by saying, look, the coaches in college baseball have much more influence and are much more likely to change
Yeah.
a program or a desk. What is the difference? I mean, why was Brian Kelly vilified and Lincoln Riley wasn't? And then what is the solution to this? Like, should it be more like a professional sport, which most people, when you're getting paid, these college coaches are making more than a lot of NFL coaches. So is it that they need a deadline as well, or some sort of like season end, or I don't know what the solution
Well,
is.
the only time you see in professional sports a manager, head coach get let go, even in baseball, offensive coordinators, hitting coaches, those types of moves in season happen with a firing, and then you hear interim. You have the interim head coach. You have the offensive coordinator that takes over, or you have the hitting coach or the bench coach moves into the interim job. And I've been on plenty of teams. Felipe Alou was fired when I was there. Bruce Bochy left the San Diego Padres in the offseason. And then I was I wasn't there when Jimmy Williams got fired. Cecil Cooper. Cecil Cooper got fired my first year back in Houston when I was there in 2008. And Cecil got let go with a month to go, and they just moved our third base coach into that head coaching spot, which was Dave Clark. And it's beyond me how Dave Clark doesn't have a head coach or a managing job right now. He's one of the better dudes, but it always happened in the middle of the season.
You love Cecil. What are you talking about?
He was the worst.
I know.
There's going to be some Houston fans listening to this, man. Yeah. Cecil Cooper was the worst. You want a Cecil Cooper story?
Yeah.
And I probably initiated some of this.
We're in Vegas. We're drinking water, though. We're drinking water. Yeah. Nobody will hear this.
So I signed in 2008 back from San Diego with the Houston Astros for my second go-around. Cecil Cooper's the manager. I had called Brad Ausmus and said, hey, what's Cecil Cooper like? Because he was the bench coach the previous year. They fired Phil Garner. Cecil Cooper's the guy. I go in every year in spring training. The manager will bring in players one by one, introduce themselves, get to know them. But when you have some of the veteran guys, and I was a veteran at the time, he brings me in and he goes, hey, this is your game plan. You're going to play X amount of innings. You're going to get this many at-bats. We just kind of go through the game plan. How many at-bats do you think are going to get you ready? I say 50, and I'll be ready to go. So you kind of work things out like that. And then he asked me, when's your family coming in? Because everybody brings their family down for spring break, no matter how old they are. And you want to play, but at the same time, you want to entertain. And spring training is a little more casual. And we worked it out. Everything was great. And I stood up and I said, thanks. Good meeting you, Cecil. Let's go get 2008. And he goes, you can call me Coop. And I went, okay, Cecil. See you tomorrow. That was it.
Why? Because you knew you didn't like him at the
point? I'm just a jerk. It's the clubhouse humor. It's that wit. It's the banter.
But then that set you off on the wrong foot.
But I think, I don't think he had an idea of who I was, and maybe I was testing who he was, and I think I pushed the wrong button. And not that we didn't get along, but it definitely didn't endear myself to him at all.
Yeah. No, oil and water sometimes in the clubhouse. You throw 25 guys in there, and you don't always get along with everybody. And then a lot of times I've mentioned guys that I know that you were teammates with that I didn't like at all. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, no, great teammate. Love that guy. So it's
no, you know who that one guy is. It's always A.J. Pierzynski. Anyways, so getting back to the question, it feels like professional sports are always on the back end. They're always an off-season move. So there's not that necessity to come in on the team and say, guys, I'm leaving. I'm going to the New York Mets. There's none of that going on during the regular season, I don't feel like. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'd love to be told, but I just feel like professional sports would always do it in the offseason. But why isn't it like that for college football, where college football feels like it's more of a relationship between coach and player, because they're sitting in your living room, wherever that may be, and you're going, please come to my school. I think you're worthy of it. And you establish that relationship. And I can speak for myself with my head baseball coach. He was my pseudo father while I was in school, and even to this day, he's really stepped in. Seven's one of the best, and you got to play with him on Team USA, and he really took me in, and that was where the emotion kind of came for me and created that pride in the school. If he would have left in the middle of my tenure at Cal, I would have fallen out. I don't know what would have happened to me, but that's where I think that college football needs to find a way to allow these guys to finish a season at least, instead of having Oregon, for LSU coaching out the season, knowing he's not going to be there again.
No. And, that's another Orgeron was he won the national championship 2 years ago, and he's out
What
already.
have you done for me lately?
I think he got a $17 million buyout. So what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I'll
It's
coach
all
a
right,
couple more games.
yeah, maybe I'll stick it out, and if I have to live in the bayou, 17 million should go a long way. So, but I do think there isn't really an answer, but I totally agree with you 100%, because those recruiting trips and the coaches come into your office or your house, excuse me, not your office, and they sit in your living room. And they're like, hey, your parents are sitting there with them.
They're appealing to your
and
family.
they're saying, hey, absolutely.
Well, what's the next
we're
step
gonna
in your
take care of
family?
you.
Yeah,
That's
you're
exactly.
leaving my home. Am I comfortable enough putting him with this guy?
That's right. The father figure aspect. And they definitely use that. And then when Brian Kelly sends out a tweet saying, hey, I'm leaving you guys high and dry. And that's why I think he got vilified. I don't know if Lincoln Riley made everybody feel better, but it seemed like gathering your team together, right? This is what we talked about earlier, like a handshake and looking somebody in the eye is a better way to do it. So I think that's probably why Brian Kelly got a lot of heat for that. But I think the process is a little bit broken. I hear sportscasters and sports talk media all the time talk about, hey, this is what the system is. And if it's that way, then you're going to leave. And you can't fault the guy for leaving, because if he doesn't, Lincoln Riley was on a private jet on Sunday to do the press conference, because if he didn't, USC is going to hire somebody else. And when does this opportunity come along?
Yeah, and I think that probably needs to be clarified too, is I'm not angry at you're angry at the way they handle it. You're not angry at the move they made, because as well as I do, and we'll talk about it, because we're going to talk about Major League Baseball free agency. I've got a couple of things to tell everybody about the CBA that I cannot.
You do?
Well,
you have a couple of things to tell us about CBA, Blummer?
Well, it's going to be a couple of nothings, but it's going to be a great big nothing burger is what you're going to get. But what I'm trying to say is you're always you don't know how long these gigs are going to last. You don't know how long the coaching job's going to last. You don't know how long your big league career is going to be. So get yours. And if you have the opportunity to get 10 years, $100 million, or have a $17 million buyout, life-changing money for these guys, and they've earned the right to make that choice.
Yeah, then we could come podcast for a living. If I had $17 million in the bank, we'd just come here and hang out every day.
Yes, please.
I do have a question.
Your bets would be more interesting.
Oh, they would be a lot better. Well, you don't know what I'm betting. Hey, I do have a question. But so we can finish up this coaching thing. But somebody brought this up. Lincoln Riley's dogs.
Oh, Boomer and Sooner.
Boomer and Sooner. Can you rename dogs? Is the question of the day.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
mine doesn't respond to Roxy, so I could call her whatever.
So this is my thought is, dogs kind of respond to voice tone. That's what they joke about, right? There was an old Far Side joke that said what you say to the dog, like, bad dog, move over here, sit here, Fido, and all of the dog hears is blah, 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 Fido, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a syllable
but it
thing.
Fido.
Yeah.
That's the name.
Yeah.
So you changed it.
Yeah. So does he change his dog's names to Fight and On? Or what's the USC dog's name? Boomer and Sooner?
Dude, he could call him whatever he wants. I can't stand USC.
I know. Neither can I.
They're going to come back into relevancy, and it's going to be annoying as hell to have all the USC alumni that just come out of the woodwork and go, USC, the Trojans are back. I don't know. Do you call one latex and the other one goat skin?
Goat skin. Uh-oh.
We're going to have to change the rating on the podcast.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. I'm out of that conversation.
On that note, how about a word from our sponsor?
Yeah. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified when we post new videos.